is Jalen Hurts in a good position with the people he needs to be in a good position with?
Oh, I think he's in a great position. I mean, that was kind of like the one thing that struck me from, all the players we talked to, and we probably talked to, like, on offense anyway, like, a dozen or so. I mean, they were all struck by, like, Jalen Hurts' leadership, his work ethic, and everything.
Mac guys here on Birds 365 on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. I just had to look something up before we introduce Martin Frank, who was the Texans quarterback. I couldn't remember who it was because I knew they had to cut somebody when they added somebody. They added the immortal Jeff Driscoll, and they released the completely unforgettable Ryan Finley. Is that your guy, Johnny Mac? Is that who the Eagles are going to snap up now to be QB3? Ryan Finley?
Sure, why not? Why not?
Excited about that now?
Who cares? I would get excited. I think, and I have to look this up real quick. I think Nick Mullins is still a free agent. He would be the best one to me on, but I have to check. Nobody signed him. Yeah, it's a free agent. That would be the one guy I would say, that's a decent, at least a guy who can play at a somewhat competent level. There's nobody out there at this point. You're looking at the KJ Costellos of the world. Maybe Martin Frank, maybe Joe Callahan, maybe a Delaware guy from DelawareOnline.com. Martin Frank. How are you, Martin?
I'm good. You can never have enough quarterbacks from Delaware. That's what I always say. So,
Yeah.
You got Joe Flacco. Why not? Joe Callahan, bring him in.
Bring him in. South Jersey guy as well. Shore guy as well. So you got a double dip. I don't know if Joe can play anymore, but he was here for a short period of time. All joking aside, though, Martin, were you at all surprised that the Jamie Newman cut, who shocked so many people, that this came down when it did?
Yeah. I was very surprised. I mean, at the very least, every team usually brings like 4 or 5, even 5 quarterbacks into training camp. And, like these guys, the chances of them making the team are pretty much slim to none. But like you have a camp arm, that's what they're for. Like, so your 2 main guys don't like throw their arms off during training camp. I mean, you go back to Chip Kelly's year with Tim Tebow. He was like, I think they had 5 quarterbacks that year, or maybe it was 4.
4 because you really can't include Tebow.
Yeah, right. 4 plus Tebow, I guess. But you need people to like throw the ball. I mean, that's the purpose. You got 90 guys in training camp. You got it. You can't have your top 2 quarterbacks like throwing their arms out, like,
especially when Joe's 36. You can't have him throwing 150 pitches every night out there in training camp. It's absurd. So they're going to bring in somebody, and we all know that.
Probably 2, I would think. Right?
Yeah, I would think at least. Who knows? Maybe Tyreek Jackson goes back to quarterback. Maybe,
right.
Maybe Greg Ward goes back to quarterback. So,
I mean, that's
and they cut Khalil Tate, who I thought was actually a pretty bad quarterback in Arizona. They cut him the same day. They cut 2 quarterbacks yesterday.
Yeah. By the way, the Eagles had an opportunity, and I think Nick Sirianni failed in a miserable way to have the first 5 quarterback offense. They could have put Flacco, Hurts, Tate, Ward, and Jackson out there at the same time.
Yeah.
Now that's innovative.
That's like taking the double reverse up to like the quintuple reverse.
All right, Martin, John and I have been discussing the fact that you got a chance to talk to a couple of the assistant defensive coaches yesterday, and Jeff Stoutland, who kind of waited till everybody else had proceeded by and then hopped on late. Did you learn anything from any of the defensive assistants yesterday? Was there any revelation, any between the lines reading you could do as to what the Eagle defense is going to look like as per someone on the assistant staff, on the understaff of Mr. Gannon as the DC?
Not especially, but I was really intrigued by linebackers coach Nick Rallis. I mean, here's a guy who's turning 28 years old next month. Younger than a lot of the guys on the team and everything. I was kind of impressed by like how he answered the questions about, being so young. And I was really impressed by the fact, he said, like, I'm going in there, I'm telling these guys, I don't know all the answers. I want to hear from you guys. And it was kind of interesting because Tracy Rocker, the defensive line coach, who's, double his age, he's 55, was pretty much saying the same thing. Like, I go in there with an open mind and I tell these guys, like, I don't have all the answers. What do you guys think, and everything like that? Because, he's got two veterans on the defensive line in Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. So it just seems like from a lot of these coaches, like, it's kind of like a give and take with the players. And I think that can be a good thing because, you don't want to go in there and say it's my way or the highway. You look at the Chip Kelly era, he kind of went in there and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have the fast-paced offense, and we're going to do this, and these are the players we're going to get. And I think, like, you can kind of tell from Nick Sirianni and his assistants that they're coming in and they're having, like, an open mind. They're evaluating the players, and they're going to play to their strengths and everything. And I think the assistant coaches that we've talked to the last few days kind of reflect that strategy. So, I was kind of impressed by that. You're not going to learn a whole lot about strategy and everything like that. They were pretty vanilla when it came to those answers, giving you the certain platitudes. Yeah, we're going to attack, but we're also going to be smart and, play back when needed and stuff like that. So, it's more like getting a sense of who these guys are. And I was kind of impressed by that. We found out that, they're willing to listen to the players and adapt things based on strategy and everything like that.
I'm still waiting for, by the way, Martin, the first defensive coach in history to go, no, I'm going to lay back. I don't like aggression. I'm just going to sit back and let everything come to me. I'm still waiting for that guy.
We're all going to run to the football.
Yeah. All going to run to the football, all going to hustle, high motor. We heard high motor. We got a high motor. I do want to play devil advocate with that dichotomy because you're right. Both guys said the same thing. The 28-year-old coach, soon to be 28-year-old coach, and the mid-50s coach. Now, Tracy Rocker has got Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, so he can say, yeah, I'll listen to these guys. I'm not sure Nick Rallis can do that with Davion Taylor and Sean Bradley. He's got to say, hey, guys, this is what we got to get accomplished. So there's got to be a little bit of some heavy-handedness. Do you think a 28-year-old kid essentially can do that?
I guess. I assume that's why he's there. I can't, here's a guy who doesn't really have a whole lot of experience. He's going to have to in some respect, but he's also got guys like Eric Wilson to lean on. Eric Wilson goes back to, Jonathan Gannon, Mike Zimmer in Minnesota and everything like that. So, there's still a veteran presence there to kind of say, to kind of help him get that message across to guys like Davion Taylor and Sean Bradley. So, I think there can be that kind of give and take, and I think it can also be. It's going to be tough for someone like Rallis to. Obviously, when you're 28 years old, it's not going to be the easiest thing to just say, "All right," to put his foot down and say, "This is how we're doing it." But at the same time, you got to lean on your veterans. It's the same thing with Rocker. If Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox don't like what Rocker's saying, they're established veterans and they have more pull. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these guys, veterans on the team, can get a coach fired and stuff. So, it kind of applies to Rocker as well as it does to Nick Rallis.
Martin, are you of a like mind like my partner? Since Jonathan Gannon has done a nice job at not giving away what his system is going to look like. As a matter of fact, he's gone to better links, longer links, to say, well, we're going to adapt to the situation rather than me trying to force feed my philosophy and the way I do things into a given game or situation. We're going to be smart enough to react and know what kind of a situation we're in to determine what we're going to do kind of guy. Are you best served just to watch what Mike Zimmer has done these last couple of years, that this is going to be a Zimmerish, I love when I can make up words, a Zimmerish type system that the Eagles will be running here in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I guess these guys are going to take from everybody. I mean, Zimmer obviously is a big influence on Gannon and stuff, but there's also other guys have backgrounds from other areas and stuff. And I'd like to think they'd all kind of like say, well, we tried this at this place, it didn't really work, so let's see if this works. I'd like to think it's kind of like a give and take among all the coaches where they sit around and they go over, things that they kind of learned from their previous stops and everything, and kind of put it all together and see what they have with the players and find out what works best. I mean, you can't just say, well, Jonathan Gannon, has a big Mike Zimmer influence, so it's going to reflect a lot of what the Vikings do, because the Eagles don't have the same players as the Vikings do. Although, then again, they do have like 5 former Vikings on defense, so you never know. But still, it's something where, there'll be some Mike Zimmer type of elements to it, but I think there'll also be some others, from like Tracy Rocker's been around for a while. A guy like Denard Wilson, came from the Jets and everything like that. So, he's got some things there. He had Jamal Adams when he was with the Jets. So he's had some, top players and everything like that. So, they got to find stuff that works. I mean, maybe you take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and put it all together, and you have the Eagles defense. And one day, like an assistant coach who came from Jonathan Gannon's tree will say, yeah, they're going to run like a Jonathan Gannon type of defense. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it's going to be a little bit of everything.
Well, one thing they're going to have to figure out, whatever type of defense they are going to run, Martin, is a second outside corner opposite Darius Slay. Now, poor Denard Wilson was out there yesterday saying, oh, no, everybody's great. You see technique, fundamentals. No, you don't need length to play outside. We can throw the 5'9" Avonte Maddox, Josiah Scott out there. Look, now they have 2 open roster spots because of what they did yesterday. One of them's got to be a cornerback. When does this happen, Martin? There's got to be a cornerback.
I totally agree. I think the starting outside cornerback is not on the roster yet. And, I mean, you go back to 2017, like Howie Roseman, I think it was August 10th, maybe, traded for Ronald Darby, and sure enough, there he is starting. I mean, yeah, he got hurt and stuff, but yeah, I think there are guys out there they can sign and everything. They just have to free up the money. And, obviously a lot of that has to do with, when they move on from Zach Ertz. But I think, once they sign a cornerback or trade for a cornerback, then there's a good chance that person will be the starter out opposite Darius Slay.
Speaking of Zach Ertz, he's still here. We keep waiting. It's going to happen this week. We've had a couple of media members say previous to this, like months to this will be the time that Zach Ertz and the Eagles have their separation. Yet he's still here. And if you're suggesting, and you might be right, that cap concerns and freeing up cap money when Zach Ertz moves on will allow the Eagles to get that cornerback guy, well, right. Then if one is holding up the other, which one is Howie Roseman making a mistake with? If he can't pull the trigger on Zach Ertz, is that keeping him from signing the quarterback that this team desperately needs? What is Howie's line of thinking right now with Zach Ertz as far as you can ascertain?
I think now it's more of a stalemate. Like maybe Howie's kind of like dug in his heels and said, I'm going to trade him. I'm going to get something. I'm going to hold out until I get the trade that I want. And it's kind of like a game of chicken right now. I mean, at some point, you want to have somebody in here for training camp, like, whatever cornerback it is or whatever. You want them in time for training camp, which for the Eagles is July 27th. So there's still some time and everything. But, at some point, you just got to, like, bite the bullet and say, like, nobody's going to want to trade for Zach Ertz and his contract at this point when they know the Eagles have to release him and stuff. So, just wait it out for now. But, I mean, I think this all should have been resolved months ago, personally. But anyway, the fact that Zach Ertz is still here, I mean, how he's going to hold out as long as he can. And, I'm sure he's got someone in mind that he wants to sign, and he just has to free up the money. And, if he can get something in return for Zach Ertz, he'll do it. And if not, eventually he'll just bite the bullet, release Zach Ertz and use that money and sign a cornerback.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of times position coaches, Martin, are put in the middle because they don't have any power really when it comes to player procurement or players being on the roster, players being cut. You know, Jason Michael's in that category. He's the new Eagles tight end coach. And he mentioned on what day are we? Thursday. So he talked on Tuesday about keeping the lines of communication at least open with Zach Ertz. I did find it interesting that he's talked to him a few times in case July 27th shows up. And hey, Zach Ertz got to show up. He's under contract unless he's going to get some significant fines.
Right.
How bad would that be for a first-year coaching staff to have a veteran guy who means so much to this organization, so unhappy? Do you think that's unfair to put Nick Sirianni, Jason Michael, and company under that sort of cloud?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why Zach Ertz will not be on the team, this year. I mean, I don't think there's any way he can come back. I mean, I'm sure, guys like Sirianni and Jason Michael, are taking the job knowing that Zach Ertz will not be the starting tight end, and it's going to be Dallas Goedert. I think in their minds, they've already moved on. I mean, they already know what they have or the guys that they have, and they're trying to work with that. I mean, I don't think they're going into it with an idea are we going to have Zach Ertz or are we not going to have Zach Ertz? I think they pretty much know that they're not, and they're planning accordingly. But yes, you have to, you have to keep in touch with him. You have to see if, you have to make the effort to say, hey, Zach, you're still on the roster. This is kind of what we're doing and everything like that, just in case. But I mean, I really think, they're not really worrying about it as much. I think they already know that at some point Zach Ertz is going to move on, and Dallas Goedert's going to be the top tight end, and they'll probably go more 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers, which I think is what they wanted to do for the last couple of years anyway, but they just couldn't because they didn't have the talent, and all those guys were getting hurt anyway. So I think they moved on in their minds, so I don't think it'll be that much of an issue.
Martin, let me ask you about a coach that you guys talked to a couple days ago, not yesterday, on the offensive side, Jamal Singleton. The last couple of years here, we found out that Deuce Staley had a big say in what running backs were on the field on a given play, that he was the guy who decided who would be out there, and then Doug would coordinate that with his play call by seeing who was out there and the like. Is Jamal Singleton going to be that same kind of coach? Is he going to decide on a down out basis who is on the field as far as running back goes? I know we don't know it. We've got to judge once they get underway, but you try and figure it out ahead of time. What is the relationship between Nick Sirianni and Jamal Singleton's handling of the running backs going to be like?
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, you go back even to Chip Kelly. I remember he used to, when we'd ask him about the running back rotation with DeMarco Murray and Ryan Matthews, Chip would say, I have no idea. Deuce is the one who's bringing them in and out and stuff. So, I mean, it seems like that would be the case. I mean, they gave Jamal Singleton, the same title that Deuce had, not only running backs coach, but assistant head coach or something like that. So, I mean, it's very possible. And, I think there's a parameter there where Miles Sanders has to be the guy, on first and second down. Maybe you take him out, to give him a break for a series and stuff like that. But I think you have to go in with the parameter that Miles Sanders is going to be the main running back, and then you rotate in the other guys, maybe on a third down. Maybe you put in Boston Scott if Sanders needs a break or something like that. But I mean, I think that's basically how it's going to work. That Sanders is going to be the main guy, and the other guys will work in here and there. And it'll probably be up to Singleton to decide when that is and who that is. I mean, it could be Kenny Gainwell. It could be a guy like Kerryon Johnson. If Jordan Howard's still on the team, maybe him every now and then. But yeah, I think Singleton will mostly be calling the shots, but with the parameter that Sanders gets the bulk of the carries.
But, Jamal to me was the most impressive coach that we talked to. At least if I were doing assistant coach power rankings, Martin, I would have Jamal number first. So did he impress you, number one, as much as he impressed me? And then secondly, he said something interesting about the running back position in that you need the three traits. You need the guy who can run the football first or second down. That's obviously going to be Miles. You need somebody to pass protect. You need somebody to catch the football, be able to split out wide. And he says you need those three traits. It depends how many players you can get those three traits out of. Could be one, could be two, could be three. But then you're right. Every coach we talk to, going back to Chip, Doug, and we'll see with Nick Sirianni, they say, oh, I don't know who's out there. I'm just calling the plays. Well, wouldn't you want to know what trait you have out there? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I always thought like that was Chip's way of deflecting, like, don't blame me.
Yeah.
He was a different breed. I was impressed by Jamal Singleton. I mean, and it seems like they have the players to fit that mold. I mean, you talk about the first and second down guy, that's obviously Miles Sanders. You talk about the guy who can pass protect, and that's Kerryon Johnson. And then you got a guy like Kenny Gainwell who can, be your third down receiver out of the backfield and everything like that. So I think it's just a matter of like finding ways. So I think like obviously, and then Nick Sirianni would obviously have plays in mind for all those situations. So yeah, if it's third down and Kenny Gainwell's in, you're going to, 3rd and 7, Kenny Gainwell's in, you're probably going to call a passing play. And you'll have Gainwell as a receiver. So then when you say, how come Jordan Howard was in on that play, then Sirianni could say, well, I just call the plays. I didn't know it was out there. I mean, that would be ridiculous, obviously. So, I think goes back to Doug too. Like, sure, that Aaron Sproles would be in there on the third down, well, when he was healthy and stuff like that. So I don't know. It seems like, they have the players that Singleton would want to be coaching in all those situations, I guess is what I would say.
We're done with the OTAs. Now we've got the wait until camp. 1 year ago today, it was all Carson Wentz's world, and we got to live in it. How things can change in a year. So now it is Jalen Hurts' world, except that he has Joe Flacco, who thinks he can actually compete for the starting quarterback position. Well, we'll assume that Jalen Hurts is going to be the starting quarterback. I think a pretty safe assumption. He's building relationships between himself and the coaching staff, himself and the players. No, you don't have the hands-on accessibility that you usually would at this time of the year, but just judging by when you do get to hear from someone around the players and around the quote-unquote gatherings that they're having, is Jalen Hurts in a good position with the people he needs to be in a good position with?
Oh, I think he's in a great position. I mean, that was kind of like the one thing that struck me from, all the players we talked to, and we probably talked to like on offense anyway, like, a dozen or so. I mean, they were all struck by like Jalen Hurts' leadership, his work ethic and everything. And I mean, yeah, you're going to say that about the quarterback, but I never remembered anybody saying it to that extent about Carson Wentz in the past. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I always kind of got the sense that everyone is like really, really impressed with Jalen Hurts, just in his work ethic, just in his leadership, the way he he's 22 years old, and he has a presence about him, and I never really got the sense that much that people felt that way about Wentz. Yeah, there were a few like the Zach Ertzes of the world and stuff like that, but it wasn't as widespread. And like I think even a few defensive players, John, like. I remember Javon Hargrave was saying he's a natural-born leader. I mean, he even made an impression on defensive guys, and I think that's, really testament to Jalen Hurts' character and everything like that. And I think it's also, obvious sign that, they plan to go forward with Jalen Hurts at least for this year, and then, see what happens. But still, I've been impressed by like how the team has reacted to him so far. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely a natural leader. Guys kind of gravitate towards him. I want to talk about the other leader, Martin, and read Martin at DelawareOnline.com. We got to get that plug in. But Martin, Nick Sirianni, I talk about this all the time. If you look at it locally, Doug Peterson, first-time head coach, had Jim Schwartz. You look around the league, Sean McVay originally was given Wade Phillips. Matt Nagy was given Vic Fangio. Matt LaFleur was given Mike Pettin, who was a former head coach. the one thing about talking to assistant coaches, and I want to see if you picked up on this as well, nobody's talked about Kevin Patullo. Kevin was talking about when Nick was doing other stuff, he was sort of the guy he was leaning on. He had mentioned Nick told him to call this guy. We got to set up this interview. We got to look at the facility, what we're going to change. Not a lot of people know Kevin Patullo. He's the passing game coordinator. Do you think it's a mistake that the Eagles didn't bring in a more veteran presence? This is a tough job, man. There's no experience to do this job until you actually do the job. So to have that ex-head coach to be a sounding board, that seems to be a theme. The Eagles haven't done that. Are you concerned about that?
I am, and I'm actually also surprised. I mean, that was like, I remember when Doug Peterson got the job, that very same day, they announced Jim Schwartz as a defensive coordinator. I mean, Schwartz had been a head coach. He's, older, veteran presence, everything like that. And I was really surprised. I mean, the Eagles have the youngest coaching staff in the NFL, and the players have all talked about like how high energy they are and everything, and that's all well and good, but like eventually that wears off. Veteran guys like Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, they could see right through that if it's not in fact genuine. And when it comes to push comes to shove, I mean, the players went out on stuff like that. If they have issues with the coaching staff, the players are going to say, like, listen, this isn't working. You need to make a change. And, Howie's loyal to a lot of those guys too, so he'll listen. If that kind of stuff, they could have all the energy in the world and stuff, but if they're not, if they show that they're overwhelmed, if they show that they can't handle it, if they're being outcoached, I mean, that energy won't matter. The players will definitely dictate whether or not those guys can do the job. And if they can, then great. The Eagles have great young coaches who, you would think if the Eagles do well, those assistants will get head coaching jobs elsewhere and stuff like that, which is all feathers in Nick Sirianni's cap and the Eagles' cap. But, if it doesn't work, I mean, the players will get onto that pretty quickly. And, guys, like I said, that have that presence that a lot of the veterans on the Eagles do, I mean, that's gonna resonate with Howie Roseman and stuff. I mean, it better work, I guess is what I'm saying, because like you said, they didn't hire that veteran presence on the coaching staff to keep things in line and stuff like that. So I was surprised by that. So, they're taking a big risk, and for Nick Sirianni's case, it better work out, because he won't have very long if it doesn't.
Martin, let me bring back onto the field for my last question. See if you're of the same mindset as me and my partner. The Eagles might actually be able to win more games than some of the national prognosticators who have them as the 28th best team, the 27th, maybe the 26th best team in the NFL as of right now. They might be able to surpass that if their offensive line is good. And when you say their offensive line is good, that means their offensive line is healthy. We know how much Brandon Brooks missed last year. We know how much Lane Johnson missed last year. Both took part in activities in their gatherings this spring. And from what I'm told, what we've been able to see, both of them looked okay. Give me your read on the Eagles' offensive line. How much of a strength can it be in 2021?
I think it'll have to be a major strength. And I think what a lot of people are also overlooking is Landon Dickerson. I mean, if any one of those three inside guys, I'm talking about Kelsey, Brooks, or Isaac Seumalo, get hurt, I mean, you've got a guy who, assuming that he's healthy when the season starts, is probably going to be like a cornerstone interior offensive lineman for the next decade. So, I think the Eagles actually did a really good job this year bolstering their offensive line, not only getting the guys back who are hurt, but adding a guy like Landon Dickerson and even signing a guy like LaRaven Clark as kind of like a swing big V type of role, like he can back up either the left tackle or the right tackle. And the only real question on the offensive line is going to be the left tackle. I mean, you have that battle between Andre Dillard and Jordan Mailata, who are both, relatively unproven compared to what they've had for the last decade or so in Jason Peters. I mean, the good Jason Peters, not the last year's version. But, 4 of the 5 spots are among the best, offensive linemen in the league. And, 3 of the 5, definitely. And Isaac is obviously better than average. So, the offensive line will be a strength. And Jalen Hurts can, improvise a lot more than Carson Wentz did. So, even if it breaks down, Hurts can probably run, gain a lot of yards running and stuff, which will make him even better. So I think the Eagles can be better. I mean, I'm not saying they're winning the Super Bowl or even making the playoffs, but I think they're better than a 4 or 5 win team, which is what I saw a lot of the national prognosticators, saying them. I think they can win 7 games, maybe if things break right, 8 games. I mean, they also have an easier schedule, the last place schedule and everything like that. So I think they'll be better than a lot of people think, but they're not winning the Super Bowl anyway. But the offensive line will definitely be the key for that to happen. I mean, you can't go through a season like they did last year and expect to be pretty good. I mean, 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen missed at least 7 games. A couple of those guys missed the entire season.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way to recover from that. And this year, all those guys are back, and they're even deeper than they were last year. So I think that's a good sign that they're going to be better than a lot of people think.
Yeah, the number 6.5 in Vegas, Martin. So that's kind of where I am. I'm I think they're going to be a little bit better than that. Not great by any stretch of the imagination. You got to add in the 17th game as well. So 8 and 9 is where Jody and I both had them at, which is so meaningful on June. What are we? June 10th. But obviously it doesn't mean anything. But I look at that offensive line and I say, we had Ross Tucker on. He said that's top 10 all day if those guys are healthy. But that's a big if. But Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, that's a big if. If that offensive line is out there, and Jeff Stoutland was pretty confident yesterday about how good those guys are and about his ability to get Mailata or Dillard up to speed. So last one, who's going to win it? Mailata versus Dillard. It's like Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. Who's going to win it?
I think it's Andre Dillard. I personally think it's Andre Dillard's job.
All right. So do I.
He's the first round pick. They're going to give him every opportunity. I mean, Mailata's good. He's also inexperienced. I mean, he's had, you look at last year, he had some pretty bad games. He had some great games too, but pretty bad ones. He's kind of still up and down. I think Dillard, you might not be as good as Mailata is when he's at his best, but I think he's more consistent, or so far. I mean, I guess we don't know exactly, but I think that's the potential, and I think it's his job to lose. But getting back to what you were saying about the Eagles season, I mean, you also have to look at the opening game against the Falcons, who all of a sudden don't have Julio Jones anymore. So, maybe that's a game they can win too, and therefore they might be even better than people think.
Start the season off right with a W. We started our day off right by bringing in Martin Frank. For you non-Delawareans, read him online at the Wilmington News Journal. Martin, always a pleasure, bud. Appreciate it. Don't know how you're going to get along without seeing John's smiling face for a month, but something tells me
he'll be thrilled. He sits next to me in the media house, so he'll be thrilled.
Yeah,
when the media house is open.
Can't wait.
It is closed for a month, and you guys enjoy your downtime, except for us here on Birds 365. We'll tap into you again soon enough, Martin. Thanks for hopping on with us. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are your Birds 365 guys. We've still got an hour left to go. Stay with us here.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.